Hey guys, Spacemon here, back with another video. Today I am taking a look at OU's Kennedy Brooks. I will be using North Carolina's Ty Chandler as a reference for a guy who ran a little bit better 40 time, but may not have had quite as much success on the field. I want to talk about why the 40 is a little bit overrated, and also what we can glean from it, but beyond the time. Right, athletically, just looking at someone in terms of how they might end up playing the game of football at the next level. I will admit I'm biased towards Brooks. I think he is one of the best football players at the running back position that OU has had, in terms of not the greatest athlete to ever step foot on there. I wouldn't put him in like a Joe Mixon or a Rodney Anderson, obviously not an Adrian Peterson or somebody more of that era, but a very, very good back who went grossly underrated as an athlete. So a couple things I want to talk about, and we'll kind of break it down from start to finish, is the start. Both guys actually have a little bit different starts, and I think Kennedy could have actually, and I said this on the Sooner Scoop board, Kennedy probably could have ran a little bit faster time. However, I mean, without really knowing or being able to coach him or seeing his technique change or not change, there's no way to really know for sure. But right off the bat, the things that are easily noticed is hip position or starting position for these guys. Notice that Chandler has a little bit higher hips, Kennedy a little bit lower hips. I think Kennedy may have benefited from a little bit higher hip position. Might have helped contribute a little bit more to some isometric sort of contractile strength that might have helped him get off the line a little quicker, but no way to tell. Where I think Kennedy may have lost a little bit of time is actually in his start. Kennedy Brooks utilizes a very low heel recovery, and I'll talk about some things he did later on in the 40. I'm not a huge fan of coaches who ever coach the toe drag, and Kennedy is just about doing that. Whereas you'll notice with Chandler, he has a little bit higher heel recovery, which I think the higher heel recovery for an athlete like Brooks might help him be a little bit more explosive. You're able to get a little more pop into your foot. And just to be honest, whenever I watch Kennedy play football, his smoothest transitions from dead stop to starting, so his acceleration, if you will, he always has a much higher heel recovery and makes it look so effortless. So I'm curious as to why they coached such a low heel recovery. And what I mean here, if you watch down sort of the track, take a look at how close his heel stays to the ground. We're going to be looking here, right? We're going to follow that. Watch how close that heel stays as opposed to a Chandler. We're going to take a look at heel there, how high that guy gets with his foot. And he's going to end up running a 4.45 as opposed to Brooks running a 4.59, which was still a solid time. I think maybe you could have played with this a little bit. Also, head position, not to be a big stickler, but I'm not a huge fan of this like really strong lean forward. I really like what Chandler did with that more neutral head and neck position. I think anytime you create unnecessary tension in the body, and in this case throughout sort of the cervical and thoracic spine, I don't think that's fantastic. And even in that, they both still had pretty similar 10-yard split times, and that is honestly because I think Kennedy is just a very powerful, sort of deliberate and explosive athlete with very strong feet, great concentric strength. When his body decides he needs to go, this allows him to be patient because he can put his foot in the ground and get from A to B very quickly. The long speed may not be there in terms of the breakaway, but his ability to see hole, get through hole is very good. One of the reasons he has this is because of this really low shin angle. We've talked about shin angle a bunch. He's able to create that really low position, whereas actually Chandler here, even on his second step, You can see how high that shin angle is and how low Kennedy's is. I think Kennedy's translates better to the game of football, which obviously he had a great O-line at OU, and that contributed to his success, but also some of the things he does physically. Here's what I want to talk about. His lower body in the open field is just almost perfect as a sprinter. You'll notice he has a little bit of anterior pelvic tilt. That's where the backside sort of pooches out this way, right? You'll notice it almost looks like you're doing the Instagram booty. This usually makes for a little bit quicker hip flexion. That's where you're driving that knee towards the chest or towards the target or where you're heading. I love how high his knees get. I love how he's really decreasing that moment of inertia by pulling that heel to that backside. Very, very clean form, talking about this back leg coming through. Front side mechanics and backside mechanics for Kennedy are just very, very, very solid. And then just to get to the end to show you guys the difference, I mean, here's a 4.45 time as opposed to right there about matched up. This is the difference, right? So, albeit there is some on the football field, that's narrowed very much. That's why guys cannot run the fastest 40s and have great NFL careers as running backs. To talk about where he could have improved, one of the things with Chandler that I think helps him gain a lot of time back, even though he didn't have the most horizontal start, right, as far as shin angle, getting north and south, he was pretty similar to Kennedy in that regard. I think his ability to relax right here, by the time these guys both hit the 20, notice that he started to relax that torso angle, although actually pretty similar to Kennedy. That head position, Kennedy again has held that sort of down head position, whereas Chandler not so much. Also, the light turning, sort of this rotational front to back right here of the torso, just means that Chandler's relaxed, right? Running fast isn't always about, getting tight and working hard. The best sprinters, when they get sort of into the open field or start hitting top speed, they're able to relax, whereas Kennedy's shoulders stay really, really rigid. You'll notice as I slow it down, we're just looking at torso right here. Kennedy stays pretty rigid throughout his entire sort of top speed phase. He doesn't have that sort of easy torso movement, sort of that right to left or rotational element. And when we run, it's not just a linear thing. Our bones and our muscles, they have a lot of other movements going on. There's a lot of internal, external rotation with different joints. There's a lot of things happening besides just front to back or moving in that sort of sagittal plane. But again, at the end of the day, I think Kennedy will be the better NFL running back. I may prove to be wrong at one day, but I truly do think that. I think there are a few things he could have corrected and been a little bit closer to kind of the mid 4.5s, maybe even a lower 4.5, just with a few different tweaks. I'm curious to see if those tweaks happen at OU's Pro Day. I'd love to see him run again. I thought he would be a 4.5 guy, and it looks like I was correct. So there you have it. Breakdown of Kennedy Brooks compared to Ty Chandler. I'll leave you guys with the video.